In a previous video, we saw how an Aramean soldier shot a random arrow and it hit King Ahab between the joints of his armor. Eventually Ahab died and was buried at Samaria. His chariot was washed beside the pool of Samaria, and dogs came and licked his blood at the very place that Naboth was killed, just as God said. Ahab died, and his son, Ahaziah, became the next king. 2 years later, Ahaziah fell through the latticework of an upper room at his palace in Samaria and was seriously injured. He died soon after. Since Ahaziah did not have a son to succeed him, his brother Joram became the next king of Israel. Joram waged war against King Ahaziah of Aram, and was wounded in battle at Ramoth-Gilead. He returned to Jezreel to recover, and King Ahaziah of Judah went to Jezreel to visit him. Do not confuse him with Ahaziah of Israel, who had died. Meanwhile, Elisha the prophet had summoned a member of the group of prophets and told him to anoint Jehu, one of Jehoram's commanders, as the next king of Israel. Jehu's task was to carry out God's judgment on Ahab's family. Jehu quickly gathered some fighting men and set off to rid the nation of the wicked family that had ruled over them and led them astray. Jehu got into a chariot and rode to Jezreel to find King Joram, who was recovering from his wounds there. The watchman on the tower of Jezreel saw Jehu and his company approaching. So he shouted to Joram,
"I see a company of troops coming.
Send out a rider to ask if they are coming in peace."
King Joram ordered. So a horseman went out to meet Jehu and said,
"The king wants to know if you are coming in peace."
Jehu replied,
"What do you know about peace? Fall in behind me."
The watchman called out to the king.
"The messenger has met them, but he's not returning."
So the king sent out a second horseman. The same thing happened. Then King Joram of Israel and King Ahaziah of Judah rode out in their chariots to meet Jehu. They met him at the plot of land that had belonged to Naboth of Jezreel. King Joram demanded,
"Do you come in peace, Jehu?"
Jehu replied,
"How can there be peace? As long as the idolatry and witchcraft of your mother, Jezebel, are all around us?"
Then King Joram turned the horses around and fled, shouting to King Ahaziah,
"Treason, Ahaziah!"
But Jehu drew his bow and took aim. The arrow went through Joram's heart. Jehu ordered his officer,
"Throw him into the plot of land that belonged to Naboth of Jezreel, just as the Lord said."
When King Ahaziah of Judah saw what was happening, he fled. Jehu rode after him, shouting,
"Shoot him too."
So they shot Ahaziah. He was able to go on as far as Megiddo, but he died there. His servants took him by chariot to Jerusalem, where they buried him. Now Jehu turned his attention to Queen Jezebel. He rode off to find her. When Jezebel, the queen mother, heard that Jehu had come to Jezreel, she painted her eyelids and fixed her hair, and sat at a window. When Jehu entered the gate of the palace, she shouted at him,
"Have you come in peace, you murderer? You're just like Zimri, who murdered his master."
Jehu looked up and saw her at the window and shouted,
"Who is on my side?"
and 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him.
"Throw her down."
Jehu yelled. So they threw her out the window. Her blood spattered against the wall and on the horses, and Jehu trampled her body under his horse's hooves. Then Jehu went into the palace and ate and drank. Afterward he said,
"Someone go and bury this cursed woman, for she is the daughter of a king."
So they went. But when they went out to bury her, they found only her skull, her feet, and her hands. When they returned and told Jehu, he stated,
"This is just as God said, through the prophet Elijah. At the plot of land in Jezreel, dogs will eat Jezebel's body. Her remains will be scattered like dung on the plot of land in Jezreel, so that no one will be able to say, 'This is Jezebel.'"